So today is just under 3 weeks after my complete right shoulder replacement. I also had a detachment of the subscapularis and repair of the bicep tendon. So I've had some tissue reattachment and repair. So my healing is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to avoid probably this week anyways. This is the first time I've straightened out my arm, like I said, in just under 3 weeks. So I'll be very careful about external rotation. So sit around about 20 degrees and I'll avoid putting my arm behind my back, going into extension. Basically, I'll be working on some abduction and I'll be trying to get to 90 degrees flexion. So right now I can't lift my arm. I'm going to show you the exercises in the sequence. All exercises demonstrated have been done for 2 minutes each, and I do all those exercises 3 times a day. So the first exercise are pendulums. Using my body momentum to loosen up that shoulder in all kind of different directions. Then I move on to active assisted range of motion flexion. And I'm actually lightly pressing down on the dowling using progressive angular isometric loading. Abducting or moving away from my midline, moving away from my body, find different angles. And the same thing, I'm actually pressing back into the dowling just to get a little bit of contraction in there. Very light, very gentle, respecting the surgery that I had. It'll still be a few weeks. Active assisted range of motion movement. You can use a cupboard, you can use, depending on the height of the flexion. I'm just using the dowling. I could be sitting in a chair, moving forward and backward on a shelf or a cupboard top. I'm also doing elbow cars. Very important to get that elbow extension back, especially if you're still in a sling daily, in and out of your sling. I sleep with my sling and I have my sling in and out of the day. 2 forms of scapular cars. One where I'm standing and I change angles on the dowling. And then one where I hang over. And I use the dowling to find different angles. Keep my elbows straight. I'll work both scapula. And I've been trying to work in some hamstrings and some back as I'm doing this. Gripping work, depending on whether you can hold a cup of coffee or something very light yet. This is the only active stuff I do, just very lightly to no pain, no stress, and just seeing what range I have. Side. So with the new shoulder, I can't go that active yet. So I'm just pressing just to get the proper signal, and I'm irradiating very lightly or having like full body contraction, but at a very light level, mostly in my belly. Go external. I'm moving into extension, but very lightly, so that means I'm pressing into the wall. And then into flexion, where I'm pressing into the wall. So this one helps my elbow as well. Pressing very, very lightly. Where I use my hand and I press outwards. So I do progressive angular isometric loading in flexion. And then just a reminder that I'm doing all these exercises for 2 minutes each. And then I go the opposite way and I'm now pressing upwards as I go into extension of the wrist. So I've addressed my wrist, my elbow, the shoulder itself, the scapula, and more movement. And then I test it all with my quasi shoulder cars. So if you're familiar with the shoulder cars, you know, that's what I want my arm to do. But this is only my second week of movement. I wasn't even able to come close to this. And now I can do my mini shoulder cars. And how did I measure my progress? I used the Dowling to see what my passive range was. I just used the Dowling to move it in the directions I wanted. And then I measured the difference between where I could passively put it to where I could actively put it to get a kind of an idea. So I did a functional range assessment on myself, and I've gained quite a few degrees in my second week.